late. I apologize. So everybody in the back of the room, please find a chair as soon as possible. I know if you're in line for a fire permit, you're going to miss the first couple of minutes, but we're going to start. Ben Nato. You are the newly elected, soon-to-be sworn-in select board member, and it's the tradition that I violated last year that you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There has been a request for a moment of silence for the 13 soldiers that we've lost in the last 2 weeks. I would also include 2 town residents in that moment of silence, Paul King and Brenda Silver. Would you please be with me and be silent for a moment? Thank you. You all have the town warrant in front of you? I'm going to quickly do some housekeeping things here. The first page is the dedication. I'm doing this because she's my sister. So we've dedicated this to Karen King for her years of service as our tax collector. I call your attention to page 11, the moderator rules. These are actually not my rules, but your rules kind of controlling me, and I appreciate that. These are the rules of this meeting. I'm not going to read them all. I know you can, but I'm going to read the community principles, because I think that's what drives all of these. The moderator will plan and organize an efficient and effective meeting where every participant will treat every other participant with respect and courtesy. I think that's the least we can expect from this meeting. I will now read number 11, because this is an important one. Upon appeal of any ruling of the moderator, that's me, a majority vote of those registered voters at town meeting will prevail. You can overrule me if you disagree with any decision I make. Majority vote. Okay? Moving on. We're going to I'll give you the results of last Tuesday. We have to announce these publicly. For the select board, Ben Nato, we had 110 people vote. Ben got 101 votes. There's one write-in. If you're interested in who the write-ins are, come to see me afterwards and I'll tell you. But there's a lot of write-ins. I'm not going to read them to you. Not now. Moderator, that's me, 102 votes. Treasurer, Teresa Larson, 104 votes. Tax collector, Stephanie Clagus, 105 votes. Town clerk, Mary Welch, 106 votes. Library trustee, Nancy Pickthall French, led the way with 107 votes. Cemetery trustee, Amanda Kilmister, 104. Trustee of trust funds, Teresa Olson Martin, with 104. There was no candidate on the ballot for supervisor of the checklist. Nancy Rothborough got 11 write-in votes. She is our new member of that committee. There were 10 single write-in votes and 1 write-in with 2 votes. I'll tell you the names if you want to know later. The warrant article passed 93 to 14, 93 for and 14 against. Those are the elections on Tuesday. Now we get down to business today. Yes, you want to do some announcements? You go right ahead.
All right. So thank you very much. As has been done, thank thank you to Karen King for all of her years of service and the dedication that we've done. A very brief, fun one. Although we have a bunch of snow, so you might think ice and ice cream. Happy Pie Day for 314. Speaking of, though, the winter parking ban is still in effect, thanks to the snow that we are having. That usually goes through the end of this month. But because of the warm weather, the roads are also posted for weight, so if you need huge deliveries or construction or similar, make sure you try to coordinate with the road agent to make sure that's possible. In the back are the fire department for fire permits, so if you need one of those, which you will as soon as the ground is not covered with snow, please go get one or see them on Wednesday night at one of their meetings to do so. And don't forget to fill out your inventory forms. If you brought it with you, Russ can take it. Otherwise, you can bring it to the office or the drop box at any time. Those are due as always by April 15th. And lastly, a presentation for the sand and salt shed project will happen after in the all other business section of this meeting. With that, I turn it back to the moderator to introduce the first of our warrant articles to be discussed here.
Our first article, number 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,025,825 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. Majority vote required. Moved by Mr. Hemingway and Ms. Muller. Mr. Hemingway, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. So, while this warrant article is about the budget, as I've done most years, I'm going to give you an overview to put everything into context that we're about to discuss for the financials. The first of that is, of course, roads. It is the town's biggest expense every year, but particularly these past 2 years, as we've increased the reconstruction rate of the roads. We've all heard complaints about each of our favorite roads not getting the attention we may hope for, but that doesn't mean our road agent isn't busy, nor that there is no plan. In fact, we have one of the better conditioned town road systems in New Hampshire, according to the Central Regional New Hampshire Planning Commission, that did the condition survey in 2023 to assist our road agent in choosing priorities. You can see the map from that up there. That's what it looked like 2 years ago, and now you can know that several of those red and yellow roads have been taken care of, and several of the green have had additional maintenance to make sure they stay green longer. To put that into perspective, though, our town has traditionally run about $2.6 million total to be raised each year when accounting for inflation. Without counting the bridge costs, the town put roughly $931,000 into our roads in 2025, after putting roughly $856,000 into roads the year prior. That's in addition to the several million spent and being reimbursed for the clothespin bridge replacement. That's over a third of your taxes for the past couple of years, not including the bridge, and well above what was commonly spent in those prior years. As a reminder, in order to make everything as easy to see as possible going forward, normal road work and preservation now is all in the operating budget. The Road Preservation Fund is used for preservation projects that are being saved for over multiple years, such as expecting chip seal this year for $100K. That's why there was $50,000 put into it last year and another $50 expected to go in this year. The Highways and Roads Capital Reserve Fund is for reconstruction projects, with Detour Road being reconstructed last year, and upcoming projects including Lake Road, the final asphalt coat for Detour Road, and portions of Little Hill Road upcoming, among several others. That fund may only be used for projects in the capital improvement plan, which those are. As many of you are aware, we spent a lot on roads the year prior as well, including some unexpected rebuilds from flooding, much like the state had to do for Tyler Road this past year. We were able to do that without making use of the Highway Expendable Trust Fund, which is designed to handle unexpected emergency overages and continues to grow slowly in case of emergency. There is also the Highway Equipment Fund for maintaining equipment or in the future purchasing equipment should the town decide to do so. Lastly, there's the Bridge and Culvert Improvement Fund, which is used for exactly what it sounds like, and is now getting minimal funding after being brought down to a normal level rather than bridge construction levels. We had to spend that down and pay for the bridge before the reimbursement cycles occurred, but have gotten the majority of those funds back at this point. And you'll see a couple warrant articles later on that will make use of those reimbursements to keep your tax rate more stable. Some notable changes to the budget as we've gone through. The executive department is down primarily for savings on various services, such as the website, IT, and etc. The elections are up this year because it's a 3-election year instead of a single year. Finance is up for audit services and new tax collector training. The cemetery is up for contracted services for poison ivy eradication at one of the locations. Police is up in the budget to account for full year wages of existing full and part-time officers, though that count may not be completely accurate, but it is what we hope for and intend to have staff. Ambulance services are dramatically up. Well, the unsigned 2013 agreement is used and a new one is negotiated through this year. That is not quite the full amount that you would see because we were able to move some of the funds, or I should say hold over some funds from last year to not increase your taxes quite as much this year for that. Code enforcement is also up to account for the code enforcement hire. And solid waste is up primarily due to the 5-year waste management contract ending and a new one being needed that is more expensive. We've done this portion before, which is to briefly discuss what the kinds of funds are. This will be important as we are making use of the last one a couple different times here. So the general fund is where all of the operating budget happens. The trust funds for capital reserve and expendable trust funds are things like road preservation and similar. The contingency fund is something special that we can use if needed, but if not, it just goes back to what it was. And the unassigned fund is for basically cash flow and what goes between years. This is a way to see kind of the financial health of the town and what we can absorb in shock times. But it's also where things like the bridge reimbursements end up in, so we can take them out with voted warrant articles and not take from new taxation in order to fund things. So, as I mentioned, notable fund warrant items. That is going to be, that's further down. One of the things that you're going to see is, and I believe it's 13 and 14, might be 12 and 13, is discontinuing the existing transfer station fund. And this sounds dramatic, but I promise you it's not, because we also want to reestablish the transfer station fund, but with an expanded purpose. And the key here is the purpose. We'll talk about this a little bit further when we get to that. But in short, the way that it's written right now doesn't allow us to use it for things that we want to, such as being able to pay towards the loans for the PFAS. We can only use it currently to pay for a piece of equipment that goes there. And so we want to be able to pay for anything related to capital expenses, such as the projects for the PFAS mitigation, instead of only a piece of equipment that goes there. And that again will help us flatten the tax rate so we're not seeing gigantic jumps in the near future. Articles 6 and 7 will put the bridge reimbursement amounts into various funds, and there may be some more of that coming back for next year. You'll see inflationary increases towards fire department vehicles. There is a police cruiser purchase. This is one of the years to do that instead of only funding the funds to do that. And we will be preparing for significant sand and salt shed work. This building here, the exterior has had moisture damage going on for multiple years. And we finally have people ready to take care of that this coming year. So there will be funds to take care of that as well. And I believe this is the last of the Pillsbury Lake Dam payments. So congratulations to them on this payment. As you can see, overall, and this is all of our expenditures, not just the budget, but includes all of the warrant articles and similar, we've been pretty much flat when you account for inflation. Obviously, this is not what it looks like if you only look at a dollar figure, but when you account for inflation, it's basically been steady here in town. And that is one of the things that we try to do a lot. And specifically, we try to stay either within a couple percent or under the Social Security inflation adjustment. That's an unofficial target here for the board because we know and are mindful of the large amount of seniors on Social Security and other fixed income who live in town. With that, this is my napkin math. You saw it for the last couple of years, and where the taxes go. We expect slightly different exact values once the tax rates are set at the end of the year, but accounting for actual revenues and such, that will change. Our town's increase should be slightly lower, below the inflation mark at around 2.6%. The county budget was expected to go up 6.3% at the time I checked, and so that's the figure I've used here. The school estimates have changed upwards since their initial estimates, now around a 5% increase, of which we as the town have fared the best in the district due to student population changes. For those not completely aware, a large portion of the school budget and thus the taxation to the towns is based on the pupil count of the towns. And so we fared the best. Pennacook has fared the worst. They're looking at an over 18% increase for their school portion of their taxes. So while I was originally prepared to say to you that we would see about a 2.5% increase across the board for your total tax bill, just below inflation, I now expect that to be about 4% overall increase because of the school's revised numbers. But you can see here that's the rough expectation with my napkin math. That was a lot, but we felt it was important to, or I felt it was important to explain everything for more context. With that said, this concludes the presentation for the various budget and town expense warrant articles. And I'll turn it back over to Moderator Richardson for any discussion or questions on Article 3, the operating budget.
And I'm going to turn it over to you. Are there any questions or comments or concerns? If there are, the microphone please with your name and your street address for the minutes. I'm going to move quickly. I don't like voice votes, so I'm going to ask you to raise your card. All those in favor of passing Article 3, please raise your card. Any opposed to Article 3? Raise your card. Motion passes. Before we move on, I had a note of a lot of stuff to take care of, and I missed one. And it's an important one. We need a motion to allow non-resident town officials to speak at this meeting. And I'd like to introduce who they are. So moved. Is it seconded by Marlon? We have experts up here who do not live in town. They need your permission to speak today. All those in favor, raise your card. Any opposed? I didn't ask for discussion, sorry. I'd like to introduce our lawyer.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Chris Hawkins. I'm the town's attorney. It's nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I moved him over here.
Right next to him.
I'm exposed.
For some reason, next to me.
Yeah, right.
And I can duck. Is this where you want to move to later articles?
Sure.
We're going to, well, make the motion, please.
So before,
I should just stop turning it on. Before we move on to the funds for Article 4, like we normally do, I will make a motion to consider Articles 12 and 13 before continuing with Article 4. This is due to it being simpler to handle the fund change now instead of needing to reconsider and or recalculate many things later after money is voted to go into it.
Moved and seconded by,
I'll start.
Select Board Member Clark. Would you like a few more minutes to explain it, or are you done with your explanation?
Yeah, sure. So, one at a time, I presume.
Yes.
So 12, I guess I'll cover both briefly, but 12 will discontinue the existing transfer station fund, which allows us to only use it for capital equipment purchases, such as a loader or a trailer. And 13 would reestablish that fund with further provisions to allow us to use it towards all capital-related expenses. And that would allow us to use it to cover things like the slipped cap and repair of that, to allow us to use it to go towards repayments of the loans for the PFAS mitigation project, which is about a $4 million project over there, in addition to any other capital-related expenses for when we get towards building door loaders. And so that is the purpose here. The first one would discontinue it and take all of those funds out. And the second one puts the same funds back into it and recreates it with its new purpose.
So we'll take them one at a time. Any discussion or comments on Article 12?
I will say, please do not pass 12 and then not 13.
If you do, you're picking up my dump. All those in favor of the motion for Article 12, say, raise your card. Any opposed? Any discussion on Article 13? You just did. Any, okay, all those in favor of Article 13, raise your card. Any opposed? Both have passed. Back to Article, remind me that we've done that when we get there.
When we get near it?
Back to Article 4. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $516,200 to be added to the following previously established capital reserve funds under RSA 35:1. This is a special warrant article. Majority vote required. Bicentennial Fund, $100. Bridges and culverts, $1,000. EMS medical equipment, $6,000. Fire Department air tax, $11,000. Fire Department bunker gear, $3,000. Fire Department dry hydrant repairs, $500. Fire Department emergency apparatus, $170,000. Fire Department mobile communication, $10,000. Highway equipment, $1,000. Highway land and building, $10,000. Highways and roads, $250,000. Police cruiser, $22,000. Police equipment, $1,500. Public safety building, $5,000. Reappraisal, $2,500. Town hall improvements, $7,500. Town office equipment, $100. And Webster Hopkins Transfer Station, $15,000. Is there discussion, concerns, questions for the board? All those in favor, please. Any opposed? It passed. I'll read it first, and then I won't read it again if there are no amendments, if that's okay with you. I don't see the need to read it twice. Article number 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $90,850 to be added to the following established expendable trust funds per RSA 3119-A. This is a special warrant article. Compensated absences, $100. Fire Department equipment, $1,000. Forest fire, $2,000. Highway, $5,000. Legal fees, $4,000. Municipal property maintenance, $15,000. Police vehicle maintenance, $750. Road preservation, $50,000. Technology fund, $10,000. Welfare, $3,000. That is motion by Marlowe and seconded by John Clark in my notes. Any discussion on this article? We're gonna set a record, folks. Yeah. He hasn't missed a foul shot in 3 weeks.
Right, exactly.
All those in favor of this article, raise your card. Any opposed, raise your card. It is passed. Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $550,000 to be added to capital reserve funds pursuant to RSA 35:1. These funds will come from the unassigned fund balance and will not affect this year's tax rate. This is a special warrant article, majority vote required. Highway land and building, $175,000. Fire department emergency apparatus, $100,000. Town hall capital reserve fund, $75,000. Highways and roads, $100,000. Webster Hopkins transfer station, $100,000. Is moved by David Hemingway and seconded by John Clark of the Select Board. Any discussion?
I'll just point out that this is one of the two warrant articles that you're going to see that are directly tied to the reimbursements from the bridge, and so that's where the funds for this are coming from instead of taxation. We try not to use things like this for anything that is going to create a sudden spike or a sudden deduction and create a false tax rate. So everything that this is going into is either a long-standing long fund that has several years of worth to it, or is for a single one-time project. For example, the town hall improvements is mainly for the outside of this building and those repairs.
Yes.
I have,
Yes, you do.
you know the drill. I do know the drill. Sorry, just real quickly. Chris Shea, am I on?
Yeah.
Chris Shaver at 598 Tyler Road. I forgot from where I live. Webster. I'm wondering about how much money is left over from that bridge fund in the future. I see that we've got, $300,000, $400,000 there. How much is there left? Because we want to make sure for other projects such as the salt shed relocation, that money's being set aside for that.
So for the total of what's come back, we're expending some, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's about $625,000 or $650,000 that we got back that we are putting into this and the next warrant article. Dana might be able to give you a figure for what we're expecting back additionally that we might see in this year to be used at next town meeting. But that's basically the amount that has come back is what we're using.
So in the past, I think some of the money that has come into, for the salt shed has come through the highway and land, the highway land portion. Is that
The
right?
Highway Land Fund is the one for the sand and salt shed and the property that was purchased previously. That's all that fund, correct?
Okay, so that $175,000, wonderful, thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of Article number 6, raise your card. Any opposed? It passes. Article number 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Road Preservation Expendable Trust pursuant to RSA 3119-A. These funds will come from the unassigned fund balance and will not affect this year's tax rate. This is a special warrant article. Road Preservation Expendable Trust, $100,000. It is moved by Marlo Herrick and seconded by David Hemingway. Any discussion from the board? Good. Any discussion from all those in favor? Raise your card. All those opposed? It passes. On Article 8. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to help offset the cost of the bond for the funds to repair the dam, passed at the Pillsbury Lake Water District meeting held August 5th, 2006. This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance and will not affect this year's tax rate. This is an individual warrant article. Majority vote required. Moved by David Hemingway and seconded by Marlo Herrick. Is there, yes. Allison.
Good morning. I'm Allison Scott of 12 Centennial Drive in Webster. I just wanted to raise a question that at our annual meeting, Jamie, our treasurer, said that this expires in 2 years. So I just didn't, well, this is super important to the Pillsbury Lake community, and I just didn't want it to be a surprise next year if it's determined that we have 1 more year. I didn't want anyone to go, well, wait a minute, they said this was last year. So it's 2 more payments, and I'm not 100% sure of that, but I just wanted to make the community aware so that can be looked into and verified.
Thank you, I apologize for that, but we had heard previously that it was the last year, so if not, I'm sorry. We can celebrate next year.
Okay, great. We'll celebrate. We'll be very excited, and we thank all of Webster for their support over the years on this. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the dam? All those in favor of this article, raise your card. Opposed? Raise your card. It is a vote. It passes. Article 9. To see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year under the provisions of RSA 3198-A for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further raise and appropriate the sum of $19,438 to put into the fund. This sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. This is an individual warrant article. Majority vote required. It is moved by Mr. Hemingway and seconded by Marlo Herrick. Any comments? Any questions from the audience, from the gathered people?
Why this crazy amount?
Why this crazy amount?
Yeah, why not 20,000 or something?
We need to come up to the mic and state name and that, but I'll just explain it. The question was why the crazy amount, and rather than making you do it all official, the contingency fund is always set to 1% of your total expenses. It is in the RSA that way.
Okay.
For further questions on exact details, I'll refer to Dana.
That's good.
That should be a warning for stray comments.
Move the question.
Can I get you to withdraw that?
George,
I don't want to have to vote on moving the question because we're going to vote on the article now. All right? Thank you.
fine. Be anonymous.
I love being moderator.
Only a few more minutes.
All those in favor of this article, raise your card. Any opposed? It passes. Article number 10. Turn my page. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $44,494 for the purpose of the purchasing of a police cruiser and related equipment, with $44,494 to come from the police cruiser capital reserve fund created for that purpose. This is a special warrant article, majority vote required. Moved by John Clark, seconded by David Hemingway. Any discussion on this article? Before someone moves the question, all those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, raise your card. It passes.
Next to,
Number 11, to see if the town will vote to increase the tax credit for service-connected total disability from $2,000 to $2,750 pursuant to RSA 7227 and 7235, effective for the tax year beginning April 1st, 2026, and each year thereafter, or to take any other action relative thereto. This is an individual warrant article, majority vote required. Select Board recommends 3-0, moved by David Hemingway, seconded by John Clark. You want to explain this at all?
Sure. I'll give the short version. I believe we have some particular service members that may want to speak to this as well. But in the past, there were the two different types of veterans tax credit, and they stacked. You could qualify for it and get both of them. The state changed that, but allowed for the change of the amounts. And so what this does is when they get the full disability credit, they will not be able to get the normal credit anymore. So this changes the amount of that to what the disabled credit was plus the normal credit, so that the amount that they get will be exactly the same as what it was. So this will not affect the bottom line and allows everything to stay the same for the veterans instead of getting worse for them.
Any discussion? Questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. It passes. Thank you.
Now we go to 14.
Now we go to 14.
Right. Don't forget.
You've done 12 and 13.
Yep.
Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for operational costs of the Webster Historical Society and repairs to Highmont Museum. Majority vote required. Petition warrant article, select board recommends 3-0. Who is the first signature on the article, on the petition? Do we have a petition? Is there someone here to speak to the article? You come forward. You are not on the 3 minutes clock. You get 10 minutes if you choose to use it. But we're going to scale you. Name?
I am Barbara Corliss, 253 Deer Meadow Road in Webster. I am a trustee, and for about 10 years now, I've been the treasurer of the Webster Historical Society. I'm asking for your support for this warrant article today. We finished the meeting house in 2022. Hallelujah. That was a really big project, and I'm glad we did it right, actually. Now we're focused on the Highmar Fire Station across the street. Highmar was the fire department of Webster, and the Historical Society took over the building. The unhappy part about the Highmar is that there's some major fixes that need to happen in the building. The joists underneath it are so rotten, you can stick your finger through them.
Oh, gosh.
And of course, there's the old bay doors that are on the front of the building that aren't really holding the cold out. There's a few other things that we need to do to the building, but the first thing we need to do is to make sure that it's standing. So we're asking for some help for not only the Highmar building, but also for operational costs of the society. We really have no income. We have to rely on donations and the generosity of Webster. And so our nut to crack every year is about $7,000. That's insurance and electricity only. We have no telephone, no Wi-Fi, no computers, no nothing in there. It's just the insurance and the electricity. We don't even have a bathroom. Sorry. The bathroom, there's no bathroom in the meeting house. It's across the street in Highmar. So if we lose that building, we've lost our bathroom. Which is, really bad news. So I'm just asking for your support, but I also would like to extend a thank you to John Clark for helping get the rocks in front of the propane tanks up at the Highmar building to make sure that the snowplow doesn't run into the propane tanks. For the Webster Public Library, which has volunteered to take over the cost of maintaining the digital archives of the society. And also for the Webster Fire Department, who has helped us to try and find a solution for the fire truck. I don't know if you're all familiar with what we're trying to do with it, but we can't afford to fix it. And it's been sitting there for over 40 years, rotting where it sits in the building. It's heartbreaking to see that. They're willing to step up and help us with that, and I am very grateful. But basically, I want to say that in colonial days, they used to say this, and it's still true today. We may not have it all together, but together, we have it all. Thank you also, and to notify everybody that the Society will have its annual meeting here in this hall in 2 Saturdays from now on the 28th, and to say happy birthday to America, the 250 years of independence this year.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Speaking of not having it all together, I don't think I had a motion to approve this article before she spoke. Is there a motion to accept, somebody move this article to Dave Nesbitt? Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, I want to get on the floor first. And Mike Bork in a second. And John Clark has the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I'm John Clark. I'm 1221 Battle Street. I sit right behind the New Hampshire Historic Society. In self-revelation, we're their neighbors, Kelly and I. I'm not a member. I am a member of the New Hampshire Historic Society down in Concord. And that's been a learning experience for me. And I look around the audience today, and most of you are in my generation. I don't want us to lose the heritage of Webster. So my whole point here is to get us out of here before lunch. My whole point is, I'd like to propose that we add an additional $5,000 to this $10,000. I'd like to get support on that. I recognize it's probably a tight year, but you know, every year we give them $10,000. I think that's nice. I think it's great we do that. But as Barbara mentioned, their expenses are $7,500. In true revelation of what goes on, this whole water problem, to save money for them and not to get into mitigation that might be necessary, I let them put the water down on my land. There's a lot of water coming out of that building, and to do that, to prevent further damage, we've set up a drainage area, worked with them on that to get the water come down. And I'm not looking for money for that. I've already told them they want to put in a dry well, they can do it on my property. I have no problem with it. But I would ask for that support, and I'd ask for somebody to give a second to that if that's what we need here from our moderator. But I'd like to see them get an extra $5,000. They're there every Sunday in the summertime. They are there right into the fall, every Sunday for 4 or 5 hours. Visitors go there. There's a lot of people that stop in, a lot of out-of-state flights. It's on the byway. Some of you don't know, maybe you do. I'm the chairman of the byway. We haven't been that active, but we are an active byway. So I'd like you to give thought to that. If I can get a second on that, hopefully some approval.
John, that's my job.
Okay, sorry. But I'm asking for that, yeah.
Yeah, and technically, you're not supposed to, we don't allow you to speak and then make a motion, but unless you overrule me, I don't think it's that big a deal. So you made the motion to amend this article for $5,000.
Want to stay in the rules,
I
whatever you want.
understand. So, and it was seconded by Chris Schaefer, right? You got that?
We good?
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
So there's an amendment on the floor to raise this from $10,000 to $15,000. Raise it by $5,000. You moved and seconded. This is the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Any opposed to the amendment? Amendment passes. Now we're back to the original article at $15,000. Any discussion on the original article? All those in favor, raise your card. Any opposed? Passes at $15,000 as amended.
Thank you.
I'm not going to read the whole article, it's 15,000. Article 15. I'm going to read it as it has been presented to us. The Historical Society of Webster, New Hampshire is requesting $600 or up to but not to exceed $900 to protect and secure an oil painting of Mr. Garish gifted to the town of Webster by the artist Dasha Tudor. Majority vote required. Is there a motion to accept this article? Chris Shaver, seconded by Mike Barr. John Buck,
I'd like to
before you
amend,
speak, I want, would you be, are you going to make an amendment, or would you be open?
I want to amend the article.
Oh, okay, thank you. You have the floor.
I'd like to amend the article to say instead of between six. I'd like to amend the article, instead of saying between $600 to $900, that it says 750, one figure.
Yeah, I was going to address that, thank you. Is there a second to that amendment? Mr. Nesbitt? So we are amending the article from, we're giving it a solid 50 to 750. Would you be also amenable to another amendment that takes out the words donated by?
Yes.
Would you
I'd
make
like
that?
to amend donated by Tasha Tudor, just to donated to the town of Webster.
Yeah, gifted to the town of Webster. Thank you. It says gifted to the town of Webster. This was an issue that we can see the cross out up there. Yeah, thank you. This was an issue at the budget hearing. People were debating who actually donated it to the town. That's irrelevant. It's not pertinent to, it's not irrelevant. It's not pertinent to this discussion. So we don't have people arguing today about who donated it. We're talking about $750. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Could you grab the whole, I mean, just at an angle so everybody can see it?
My bad. Hand in it.
Okay. All right, here we go. This is an oil painting. Sorry. This is an oil painting that was given to the town of Webster. And you can't get more Webster than this painting. It was done by the renowned world artist Tasha Tudor, who lived in Webster from 1945 to 1972. It is, the subject matter is of a man by the name of Edwin Garish. Edwin Garish was born and raised in Webster. He lived here for 97 years. He was town treasurer for 30 years. He also contributed to a lot of different projects and things for the town of Webster. Many of us in Webster would like to see this displayed in this room so that it can be taken out of storage and appreciated by anyone who comes in and will tell the story of our heritage, you know, and the people who work so hard for this town. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that it is environmentally protected so that the sun, change of weather, all that won't affect it. And then we also want to have it bolted to the wall. So if anyone thought that they may want to walk out the door with it, we'll be able to do that. We estimate that the cost would be around $750. It may be below that. So that is, any questions on the painting?
That's my job.
Oh.
Any questions on the panel? Any questions? Yes, yes.
We're just to the mic.
Oh, come up, you gotta come up to the mic.
You get for after the
Name, road, and question.
Hello,
Name,
my name's Charles Petroselli. I live at 223 Deer Meadow Road, Webster. I just have a question is where the $750 estimate comes from. Is that been looked into?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I have talked to many people, different kind of framers and et cetera. It was difficult to find someone who understood the value of the painting and knew how to deal with it. There's a lot of framers out there, but they'll just frame. They don't understand the protection, they don't understand you have to have airflow. And I could not take the painting at the time to these people, but I did have a picture. And I ran across one man, he has a gallery he's in New London. And I asked him, and I said, I'm not gonna hold your feet to the fire, but what would you estimate this? And this was my guess also. He estimated around $600. But as you get into preserving anything, as you probably well know, like if you do something in your house and you break down the wall, all of a sudden there's something behind there that you didn't realize, and you're like, oh. So we came up, I added another $150 to the cost in case there was something additional that had to be done that we were not aware of until he took a good look at it.
Any other questions, discussions, concerns? All those in favor, please raise your card. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's up. I'm going to read it again as amended. The Historical Society of Webster, New Hampshire is requesting $750 to protect and secure the oil paint. I've lost it. The Historical Society of Webster, New Hampshire is requesting $750 to protect and secure the oil painting of Mr. English Brady Artist Passion Tudor. We're voting on that amendment. Please, as amended. Any opposed? It passes. She accepted that amendment, so I'm not going to vote on it. We good? All those in favor of the article as amended? Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Okay, we are now at the last article. Transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. Mr. Henry.
Yes, thank you. So a common thing that is asked about is the solar array across the street and how it does for the town. These are the figures for 2025. The town has used more electricity than it did in past years, where we were typically around 110 to 115% of our usage was generated by the solar array. That is primarily because of some of the upgrades in a couple of locations, as well as the heat pump system that's here in this building that will now more maintain the moisture throughout the year, as well as give us more efficient heating. So we're using a bit more in the way of electricity. That is the top line there. Solar has created approximately what you see, and or I shouldn't say approximately, exactly what you see. And so the solar array has paid for 66% of the bill this year and has produced 97% of the electricity that we used this year. So that is the update on solar. I just wanted to make sure that everybody saw that because it is a common question. With that, it is the request of the chair of the Conservation Commission and the chair of the Sand and Salt Shed Committee as it existed to make a brief presentation on the Sand and Salt Shed. As we've mentioned, that those funds are here.
When you're at the microphone and tell me.
You can have a second mic if you each want one.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, we don't want to invite it.
The switch is on the bottom.
Hi, I'm Chris Shadler again. still living at 590 Tyler Road. Come by anytime. And this is Amanda Elms. She is the new chair of the Webster Conservation Commission. Fabulous. So lucky to have her. So we're going to talk for just a few minutes today about the sand and salt shed. Do you all know where the sand and salt shed is? Is everybody aware of that? Okay. Yeah? Yeah, it's right over there. It's right there. So about 8 years ago, I was on the select board, and the chair at the time authorized me to form a committee to investigate finding a good site to relocate the sand and salt shed to. And so we put together a committee of Webster residents, an engineer, and it was a real good committee. We went to various locations, and Emmett Bean was our advisor on that also. We wanted to include that. And ultimately, we learned that the McCallum family, right next door to the safety building, was going to be possibly interested in selling the property. So we looked at the property, and in September 8th, 2020, the town invested $125,000 to purchase those 45 acres. That comes to about $2,800 an acre, which means we got an excellent deal on that, 45 acres. And the whole plan at the time was to envision not just an area for the salt shed, but also an area that in the future, government offices could be located there if there was an expansion, or a highway department could be situated there. It's flat land, it's high, it's dry, perfect, and it's far away from the river. So, and the reason that even came up is because over many decades, people have been concerned about the siting of the salt shed, the fact that it's located right next to the Blackwater River. And so we know that there have been problems. So Amanda's going to go into that, and then I have some concluding remarks. Yeah.
Thanks for all the information, Chris. Can you do the next slide? All right. So I quickly wanted to share with all of you some additional information about the salt shed regarding its deteriorating conditions, as well as the negative, if not illegal, impacts to the wetlands surrounding it, as well as some information about how the salt shed is not in compliance with current DES standards. So this is a photo taken of the back of the salt shed, and you can see how the supports there are completely compromised and they're no longer functioning, as well as the wall of the back of the salt shed on the back of the bays are currently bowing outward. It's a little hard to see in the photo, but the town, we're currently limiting the use of the structure in terms of pushing salt and sand into it because of how the structure is compromised. So it's clear that there needs to be work done there.
Same with our technology. It's compromised.
All right, thank you. And then in this photo here, you can see where the salt is actually coming through the cracks and leaching out of the building. The slope of the roof also, it runs in one direction towards the river, so any rainwater or snow melt coming off the shed is then dropping onto this salt behind the shed. And that is then bringing that salt towards the river and also into the soil. The river is only about, 60 to 70 feet away from this point, so it's very, very close. And then also, I just wanted to note, for DES standards, you're supposed to have an impermeable surface that extends out and around the building that you don't have. And there's also supposed to be stormwater drainage controls to prevent runoff, water and snow melt from contacting or running through these areas. And we don't have that either. And then also, in addition to the Blackwater River, the salt shed is also immediately adjacent to and currently impacting the surrounding wetlands. And there's significant erosion and runoff occurring, especially as the land slopes dramatically from the salt shed down to the river and the wetlands below. Next slide, please. So in this photo here, you can see there's a steep slope, which is not vegetated, and the sediment is running down the slope here. And it's a little hard to see, but the river is actually in the very top of that photo behind some of the trees. So it's very close, it's impacting the area, and what we're seeing is the sediment. You can't tell what's already reached into the soil underneath, but this is a good representation of what's happening in that site. Next slide, please. And in this particular photo, you can also see, again, how the sediment from the runoff is being deposited directly down the slope, effectively filling the wetland areas, which would constitute a wetland violation if we didn't have a permit for it, which I don't believe that we do. And salt shed facilities, per DES standards, should be located on a flat site away from surface water and wetlands, and we're over 3 there. We're trying to, basically we'd like to move the salt shed away from this site. Next slide. I also wanted to talk about the soil at this site. There's 9 different soil types. There's soil that's pretty good at keeping water and other substances that might be in the ground where they are and limiting spread. Or there's also soils that are very good that allow water and other substances to spread. Those would be highly permeable soils. Per DES standards, areas used to store salt should be located outside of any areas where the soils are very good at allowing substances through them, which makes sense, right? You don't want a high chance of contaminating your groundwater, especially if it's used for drinking water or anything like that. So these areas that are highly permeable, where soils are very good at facilitating spread, those are called stratified drift aquifers. Oftentimes, these are the areas in towns that people choose to put wells because water flows so easily through them. Unfortunately, our salt shed is located inside of a stratified drift aquifer, which DES has identified as an area to avoid storing salt. Next slide, please. In this image here, you can see the stratified drift aquifer is that light teal color, and the salt shed is within it, circled in red there. Even if repairs were made to the salt shed and the site to limit salt and sand runoff, ultimately we would still not be up to DES standards as the area is within the aquifer and there's no changing that, which means the only option we have is to move the salt shed elsewhere. And thankfully, Chris already mentioned how we have land to do that, which is great. Do you want to talk again?
Yeah.
Okay, and Chris is going to share some more thoughts.
Oh. So, we have a problem, right? We've got a problem that we have to fix. I contacted Fred Reagan. Anybody know him? He's the facilities manager for Merrimack Valley School District, and he's about to retire. This should be a huge party for him, by the way. So he gave me some information about the contamination that goes back to the 1980s at the Webster Elementary School. And when contamination was first discovered by the USGS, the US Geologic Survey, they found high levels of sodium chloride in the well. So they dug another well, hoping that that well would be better. But that well had even higher concentrations of sodium chloride. So they capped that well. So this is all money that has been spent. And they tried to figure out filtering options and everything else. Nothing seemed viable. And so they went to buying bottled water. And that has been the solution ever since. And that's been working, although for cooking over there, they also have to use bottled water. So, the solution over there is not great, but the kids at least have good drinking water. It costs about $3,000 to $4,000 a year to make sure that those kids have good drinking water. But we have a problem that is ongoing, and the problem is only going to get worse. Fred even said in his report to us that the heating elements in the system, the piping, are corroding as a result of the sodium coming up through the well water, the old water. And so we're going to be looking at bigger expenses, more fees, higher costs all the way around. And as Amanda said, remediating the system that we have over there is not a viable financial option for us as a town. We're facing costs at the transfer station because of PFAS contamination there. And this is the world that we're living in now, and over there, it's just going to get worse. So we hope that the town will support, and we hope that the select board will support providing the financial support for us to get a road built. Emmett has begun the start of a road up to the site where the salt shed would go. And so we need to continue that. Now, one last thing. You know that the bridge is going to be repaired. The big bridge on Battle Street is going to be repaired in the next year.
It's a 2-year project.
It's a 2-year project. Does it not begin next year?
No. 28, 29, or 29.
Okay, soon. Soon DES will be here as part of that project. What this means, DES is the Department of Environmental Services, and they will more than likely be staging some of their equipment at the salt shed site. So they will be in full view of what is going on there. We need to get moving on this. We need to show them by the time they get here that we have made good progress in getting that salt shed moved, that we have a plan, that Emmett has come up with a good design, that the select board is supporting the road building going up there, etc. And we hope that you would support that too. Questions for us?
Oh, sorry, one question. I just have one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
This is wonderful, but can you?
Yep, just real quick, I just wanted to mention that it's come to my attention very recently that the well actually at the school that they've been using for heating and whatnot actually stopped working this week. And while we don't fully know the reasons why, I would think that the corrosive qualities of salt might have something to do with that.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
that's what I just wanted to add. Now, if there's any questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you. There's no motion on the, I guess this is marvelous. The board has them to do this. What's the purpose of, what are you looking for today?
I will, when people have discussed, I will have a couple straw polls.
Oh, a straw poll.
Sorry about that. Take it home.
Okay, so the purpose was to get information out so that we could then ask a straw poll for guided town direction towards future sectors.
Somebody else has something.
Andy, you go ahead, you.
Jean Schwazier, 140 Frost Lane. I spent 40 years as a professional chemist. I will tell you that sodium is one of the most corrosive products on market. You will be looking at a new school. It will actually eat through those pipes. That's why you see all marine vessels are washed frequently, because the salt from the ocean is about the equivalent, if not a little less, than what you're seeing in this well.
I guess I'd be more comfortable if you would ask that we let them take the straw poll here. So I guess it's not a legal or binding vote. So there'll be no motion, but anybody else, John, anybody else want to get in line if you want to speak?
And Stefan might be too if he says something. Good morning again. I appreciate that presentation, and I've got to say, some of you might have heard me in board meetings and my colleagues say we haven't heard a lot of evidence. It's probably the best evidentiary presentation I've seen since we've been discussing the salt shed. So thank you both. Where was the other? Thank you. Very affirmative. You've heard me say, and I think some of my colleagues say, we're sort of in between there and up here. And that proves to me we need to do something about that immediately. And we need to know a little bit more about up here. I haven't heard, and maybe you know more about this than I do, you should probably do. I haven't heard if we've had any test wells performed up here. Or, okay, and that's understandable. I'm not being critical in any way. But I think we really need to get going, and I can say, and Marlo and I just said it, and our other colleague, and I know Dave's on board with it, we really need to start working. So I would say to both of you, the two of you, and I would assume there's other members on your committee, correct? We get together as soon as possible and start talking about this for the next town meeting, because listening to the school issue, again, we're looking at liability there with the school district. And the DES issue, and you're right, the bridge is being built, and Department of Environmental Services is going to be all over that the minute they start breaking ground up there, due to the river. So I'd like to say that as part of the board, and Marlo and I just discussed it, we need to get on this immediately and start talking about it, start looking at price, and trying to minimize price as much as we can if we decide to move it. Rehabilitation, you might have heard me say, some of you, rehabilitating down there, doesn't sound to me like that's a viable option. So, but I appreciate the evidence, that sets the tone. So, anybody else in the audience, I know there's other board members, past board members sitting in here. One of the things I've learned this year is you've got to be a good listener, and why I've tried to remain neutral, I think the rest of us here to some degree, is we try to listen to both sides of the issues. Sometimes it's very hard because we have our own opinions, but out of respect, that's what we need to do. So thank you for bringing that up today, to the point you did, and bringing the evidence into it, specifically the scientific evidence, very important. Thank you.
Yes. Your name and address.
Peg Foss, 4 Tyler Road, Webster. I worked for the DES for 20 years. My first 5 years, I was a wetlands enforcement inspector. They now call it compliance assistance to be friendlier. So I'm well adept with all of the laws and regulations because that was my job. After I did that, I transferred to the still in DES for 15 years. I worked in the water quality planning section, and my job was basically to protect the rivers, lakes, and streams of New Hampshire. I have a master's degree in water chemistry and environmental biology, and my thesis work was on a big road salt study that I did in Rhode Island for a huge reservoir system out there. And so anyway, enough about me. I think what I'd like to do is offer my expertise. I know Gene and I saw each other every single day at DES for decades. Several of my friends still work there, and I'm in contact with them all the time. So I am your resident expert in everything water quality, rivers, lakes, and streams, and my specialty is road salt. I help the town of Situate design and install and implement a road salt structure, covered structure, so I'm extremely familiar with how those are built, and I'm extremely familiar with all the wetlands laws, not that you have to deal with it up there, where the river is going. But as far as all this work goes, it's a DOT project. They have a whole section of people in their department now that are their environmental compliance people that would work in liaison with people like me. So I don't think you have to fear them. The job that I did was to help people understand the laws and abide by them so that the enforcement piece never came into place. So those are the people that you want to use, and I'll just offer you all know who I am and where I live. You got my phone number, so if you are having any meetings or liaisons with them, these are people I probably already know.
Thank you. All right, very good, thank you, Meg.
Yeah, my name is Heidi Pelcha. I live at 1053 Battle Street. I just have a question. We have already in past town meetings actually approved funds to move that salt shed up there, create the road, everything else. I'm trying to understand why it didn't happen.
So I'll try to answer some of that. The short version is that it didn't. There have been funds to start moving it. There haven't been enough funds to finish the project. And so there has been a lot of debate back and forth of should stuff be done until there's a final product ready and the funding for it? Should there be a road constructed to get up there first? Should we then wait and then clear the site and set up the site? Do we need to engineer the site first and then build a building, or do we need everything ready before people move? It's been a constant thing ever since I got on the board. One of the first large decisions that I was part of a very long set of debate on the board when I was not chair was how that access should happen. The land had already been purchased, it was ready, it was set to be the spot, but should it be done through an engineer and a bidding process? And the select board, through a lot of deliberation, came to the conclusion that it should be the road agent's purview to build the road and access to that location. And he's basically been told to do that. But of course, to exactly where, with what sort of siting up top to be cleared and prepared in what manner. What is the building? Is there funding to do that? And so those were open questions. And while I've had promises from our road agent to go start on that project several times throughout my tenure here on the board, there have been several very good reasons that he didn't get to it. For example, having to rebuild several of our roads after they all wash away. And that's something that we couldn't have expected. And so those sorts of things caused delays. We also, within the past couple of years, we're very happy to get the second driveway access at the safety building. And that was one of those things where you don't want to have everything kind of weave its way through and around the safety building every time it needs to get up to get sand. And so we were very happy to get that in. That is one of those minor progressive points in getting to this. But it's also been a kind of growing contingent that has said, well, we have a sand and salt shed. We shouldn't actually go up there. There are other issues that weren't considered, such as, well, it is salt and there's a steel building below it. So there are many things that have been debated over time that have kind of slowed the, well, we don't have everything, so we can stop and plan and think longer. And that's kind of happened at almost every step of the way. But as you can see, we're now into a stage where we really can't delay longer, whether it's deciding to remove what's there, rebuilding compliance on site, which is, as you heard, likely almost impossible, if not very much more expensive, or to move up to the new location that was purchased for this purpose at least 7 years ago, maybe 8. So I'll leave it at that as to why it hasn't happened. There's been lots of good progress and good reasons for delays. And this is basically one of those legal terms that we like to say commonly is one board's decision does not bind another board. And so just because a board back then decided to do it this way doesn't mean that this board or a future board has to do it that way. However, this all comes from you, the public, the voters, wanting to do what's best for the town. And so while this is not binding, that's why I wanted to have the straw poll vote to put support behind this, to make sure that this is still the way that the town wants to go.
Well, let's-
Can we do that?
We're not going to waste the last 20 minutes we just spent. We already have the straw poll. And I'm sorry to say that, but yes, Mr. President.
Charles Petroselli, 223 Deer Meadow Road, down. Okay, so what would the straw poll be for? Is this just to say, okay, this is a top priority, no more fiddling around with it? You know, like, yes, we gotta go and put it up there as soon as we can, or, I mean, what's this?
It has no binding effect. It's a recommendation to the board.
Yeah, but
It's immediate motivation to go
put
forward.
fire in them? Okay, because, you know, and I do have a question. Now, we can't, once the aquifer's polluted, it's polluted. There's no unpolluting it. Okay. The hydrologist is shaking. Thought so. Right, thank you. So, so we are voting to make this a priority, that it doesn't get, we're no more chasing, you know, the perfection and not doing the good.
I haven't asked the question yet, but I'd like to.
Go ahead. You and me, or just?
No, this is the board's doing. I'm going to let the board make the recommendation, but I just want you all to know, this is non-binding. So,
This is already the motivation, the support of the town for us to move forward. We've debated this back and forth, as you know. We need to go with it. And we just want to make sure you're all behind us to make good decisions. As I mentioned to Chris, test pits, we're going to get some test pits up here to make sure that is a good decision. That will be one of the things. The environmentalists in the audience would probably agree and say that. But not to have that as a obstacle in any way. Let's make sure it's good. Let's get it done. And we need to do it. So thank you.
so we're still waiting for what you're looking for.
A vote of support.
Okay, so now that we don't have people waiting to talk before anything else happens, here is the straw poll, and I would like you to raise your cards if you agree. And that is, should the select board be focusing on moving the sand and salt shed to the new location already purchased with your funds to do that?
Yes, we'll do that.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else to come before we have something?
Yeah. On behalf of the select board, we would like to thank Dave for all his support, his preparation, his time and effort to do the proper research, his effort on the budget to always try to keep it as fiscal appropriate, to make sure we do some long-term planning, and in the meantime not raise, taxes to the best of our ability. So this is his last meeting, and I'm gonna let John say something, but it's been great working with you, and we really do thank you for all your time and effort. He puts a lot of time in. I can't say that for me. Anyway, so we really thank you, and he has really worked really hard to keep everything as you can see, the meeting ran really well. Not that we show up and do nothing, but he likes to explain things, and I think that does help at times. So we'd like to thank him for his term.
Thank you.
I kind of came into this at 90 miles an hour last year. I got to tell you, I've learned a lot this year. I sat back, tried to sit back. A lot of times, if you've been listening. But Dave's a budgeteer. He can spin a computer in his sleep. And I got to tell you, I've been really impressed. I've got to know him as a colleague and as a friend. But I've been impressed with his abilities, his knowledge, his capabilities, his dedication to this town. And I'm going to say it, and you folks have heard me say it before. It's all about team. None of our success in this audience has been about ourselves. It's been about working together, being together, working as a community, and being part of a team. And I consider us all part of a Webster team. And it's great to see the turnout today. But for Dave, I'm gonna miss him on the board here, and he's still gonna be involved in town affairs with us. He's volunteered to work with us, and we appreciate that. But I learned a lot from him this year, and none of us know all, and I'm one of those people. I'm no expert in anything, but I've really learned a lot of professional things to keep this community moving this year. So thanks again.
Chad's got something, and this is from us. Your maple syrup from Webster. On the
How
hill.
sweet it has been.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's have another big applause.
Good job.
Well, after all that, is there anything else that may legally come before this meeting?
I'll just say, thank you very much. It's not just me, it's not just us, it's every single one of the people that turn out for a board, a committee, a commission, or to volunteer. So please consider doing so. It is one of the most rewarding things you can do as you help and affect everybody else in town.
Well, objection, our meeting is adjourned.
Yes.